Hey gang, today we're going to go over a jump style blues solo that features a really cool diminished run in it that links up with all the other licks and phrases. Now this particular solo has a lot of different phrases borrowed from all sorts of things, including the major pentatonic and the blues scale, as well as the diminished. So there's lots of things that kind of link up. It's really fun to play, and we're going to go over it note for note in just a second. Hey, as always, if you like this, go ahead and click the like button. And if you haven't yet, subscribe for one of these every week. We'll see you in just a second. All right, let's go over this note for note. Before we do, you can download the tab from the link in the description below. It's definitely going to make your life a little bit easier. Now let's go over the chords, because the chords are a little bit different, and I've got them written out in a tab. But let's just go over them anyway. This is the 5th fret right here, so I'm playing an A. I'm going to start out with an A6 with the root note on the 6th string. Okay, so it's an A6 or A13th. Very related chords, okay? So we're going to play 2 bars of that. Then another 2 bars. And then, a little bit strange, another 2 bars. And then E7. Back to A6, A7, and then D, E flat diminished. Back to A7, E7, and A7. All right, here's the whole thing together. Okay, so that's basically it. Now, before I do it line by line, I'm going to play the whole thing kind of slowly, and we're going to start out here. I'm going to slide from the 9th on the 3rd to the 11th on the 3rd string. Okay, so that's where we're starting out, all right, just so you can follow. Okay, let's do this line by line now. All right, let's go over the first phrase. All right, now, I suppose that, in fact, I know that there are scales that fits. The A major pentatonic works. But I have to tell you, I'm not really thinking about that. All I'm thinking about are a lot of triads in this beginning part. So I'm thinking about, first of all, this triad right here, with the A triad with the root on the 10th fret, 2nd string. You can also think about putting the root on the 5th string, 12th fret. And that has the same shape as an open C chord. So that's basically what it is. You don't have to know that, but it's an A triad. So I'm really just playing around with that. And there's also an A triad right up here at the 14th. All right, so all I'm really doing is playing around with that. Notice I'm bending this up to this note, which is part of this A triad, which means it's a chord tone. And so I'm going to end on a chord tone, really strong note. All right, so that's kind of the first phrase. Here's the second phrase. Again, thinking those triads, it's kind of like a response to the first phrase, isn't it? It's call and response. So this is really the response. That's the same. And now I'm playing 14 on the first string, 14, 12th on the second, and bending that up almost a whole step. And then ending on the 14th on the third and giving it some vibrato. That 14th is an A, all right? It's certainly part of the triad, but it happens to be the root, so super strong note. The reason I'm bending gives it a nice bluesy sound, but also I'm headed for this chord tone, right? Those are all really strong notes. Okay, so those are the first two phrases. Now the third phrase. Again, I'm thinking of this triad. Again, I'm thinking of this triad, but this works out a little bit differently. It starts as off, I'm sort of faking that I'm going to do the call and response again, but I do something different. So far that's the same. Now I'm going to walk down on the first string, 12, 12, 11, 10, 8, slide up to 9, and then see how it's really outlining these triads, right? Okay, so far so good. Everything is in A, right? It's over an A chord. So that's all we've been doing is playing over the A chord. But now it shifts to E. So I've got to do something else, and I do. So I'm thinking now, again, I'm not really thinking scales, but here's an E triad right here. And you can recognize that by the root of your regular bar chord if you play it, with a root on the 6th string there. Okay, and so what I'm playing is I'm walking up to the third. See how that's a... And I'm using this note right here, which is the second string 12th fret, which is a B, also in that chord. Happens to be the 5th of that chord. I'm using that as a pedal tone. Okay, one more time. A lot of chromaticism going on there, using that pedal tone. Anyway, I think it's a really cool lick, especially if you can get it a little bit up to speed. Kind of sounds neat. A little Chet Atkinsy or country-ish. All right, so that's that. Here's the next phrase. Okay, so another bluesy type line. And this time I am definitely thinking of this triad right here. And I have to admit, this really does kind of come into that A major pentatonic. All right, so it's an A major pentatonic line, and I'm sliding into it. And then this right here. That's a pretty common sort of trick or type of sound. Where I'm doing is I'm bending up to, again, this is over an A chord. So I'm bending up to this note right here, which is in the A chord. But instead of just playing this, that sounds okay, but it sounds a little cheesy, right? I want it to sound a little bit bluesy, and so I play this. I'm going to bend up to this note instead of playing the note directly, okay? So again, we're playing a dyad. All right, here's the whole phrase. All right. I should note also, it's a little bit difficult to get this up to speed. It's a little bit difficult to get up to speed, so practice that. All right, here we go. Here's the crazy line. This is a diminished scale line. One more time. Now, if you're not familiar with the diminished scale, it's a great way to sound to get a little bit of an outside sort of sound. You're using notes that are outside a lot of the other chords. And everybody will tell you it's a symmetrical scale. Well, I'm not going to teach the diminished right now. We'll just teach this line. But it's tricky. I have to admit, I often get lost in the diminished scale. But we're going to just go over this line. You can see it's kind of a series of half steps and whole steps, okay? So that's really what a diminished scale is, depending on where you start. Okay, so we're going to start here on the 3rd string and hammer on to the 11th. Okay, and then on the 2nd string we're going to play 9, 10, 12, 13. Notice it is half step, whole step. Okay, and then on the 1st string we're going to play 10, 11, and then 13, 14. So that's going to give us this. One more time. And now we're going to come down a diminished arpeggio. Okay, and that's just 11 on the 1st string, 13 on the 2nd, 14 on the 3rd, and 11th on the 3rd. And then ending up on this note, which is the 13th. We'll hit 2 of those. Now, I'm intentionally trying to end on this note because I want to slide up to the 14th, which I know is a great note when I go back to A, because it's a chord tone. And then if I get that diminished like one note away from that chord tone, I think to me, that's one of the keys to trying to use a diminished scale, is ending on a note that's one note away from the chord tone, and then you just kind of slide in, and it makes it sound cool, makes it sound like you really wanted that to happen. So anyway, here's the whole line again. Okay, here's the next line. We're going back to an A chord, right? That was over a D and then an E flat diminished chord. And now we're going back to our A. And so we'll play this. Very simple. Sounds like a ragtime type of thing, right? And again, I'm just playing around with that little triad right here. Right? Which is an A. Okay, now here's over the E. So with the E, we're just kind of playing a blues line here. Right? We're playing over this chord. Right? But we'll just play this. And then we're going to walk back up to A, which is where we end. And we're back on that A chord. All right? So that whole thing goes like this. All right, now over the A, we just have a little bit of a blues lick at the end. Okay, and this is typical sort of blues lick. We're going to hammer from the 16th to 17th on the 2nd, 15th on the 1st, which is the flatted 7th of that A. Right, that's a scale we're using. So, and then, so here I'm sliding 16, 15, sliding to that, pulling off to the 13th and landing on the 14th on the 3rd. So it sounds like this. And then I play just a little A 13th triad right there. 17, 19, 18. All right? And you can see that down here. We're just pulling that up a whole octave. All right. Well, hey, gang, I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. I really love this style because it's still the blues, but it's got just a touch of jazz in it, so it's got some really neat runs, a lot of chromatic lines, and of course that diminished run is really fun too. It's a lot of fun playing with the melodies and doing call and response and all kind of stuff like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We'll see you on down the road.